March 4th is a pretty interesting and significant day in not only comedy, but Canadian comedy. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but I have a very deep, strong love affair with John Candy. And he passed away on March 4th, 1994. And that for some reason, that date is just like burned into my mind from when I was a kid because it was just so devastating. But the other interesting thing that makes it really a significant date is that is also Catherine O'Hara's birthday. And so he passed away on her 40th birthday, and she gave the eulogy at his funeral. And they were really good, close friends. And we recently lost Catherine O'Hara as well. And to me, it seemed a little sudden. It was a little out of the blue. It was a little devastating to see that come across the feed, come across the headlines, because I just saw her and stuff. It was kind of that same thing with John Candy where it's like, he was here a minute ago. What the fuck? And it just kind of makes you reflect on things and reflect on people and their impact and their careers. And I guess I just wanted to kind of talk about Catherine O'Hara for a minute, because a lot of people just know her from Home Alone 1 and 2 and Beetlejuice 1 and 2, but and the Christopher Guest mockumentaries, I want to say those are probably like the greatest hits package for Catherine O'Hara, and they're all great, and she's great in them. And in that little snapshot, you can see a lot of diversity. You can see a lot of what she brings to the table in terms of talent and performance and just her career. But, in the past on the podcast and on VHS, we've talked about The Nightmare Before Christmas. And she was, of course, the voice of Sally and Shock, and the singing voice as well. So supremely talented. She also did Frankenweenie as a voice actor. She's done a lot of voice acting. But one thing that I was always taken with by her is that she will turn up in, a diverse body of work and a number of films, and sometimes it's in a large capacity, sometimes it's in a small capacity, but it's always sort of an impactful capacity. And one thing that I've really noticed is that even if she's in a small role, she gets really good billing. I mean, I've seen a handful of her additional films outside of, the Christopher Guest films and the aforementioned Home Alone, Beetlejuice double whammy. But I'm just curious, what are some of your guys' favorites? Because I know there's so many that I could recommend to people. I mean, I loved her in After Hours. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. It's Martin Scorsese, 1985, Griffin Dunn. And she has a great character that she brings into that story. Even in the Christopher Guest films, the thing that always kind of surprised me was just what a standout she was. And there's one movie, I think it was the last one that they did, For Your Consideration.
I think that's the only one I haven't seen.
That one, it's not as great as Waiting for Guffman or Best in Show or even A Mighty Wind, but it's worth watching for her performance because she is pretty much kind of the star, and she should have been nominated for an Oscar because of the lengths that she goes through with her character and with her performance in that one. So I would recommend, if you just want a fun little taste, After Hours is always great. But if you really want to see something remarkable in terms of a performance from her, For Your Consideration, it's not the best of the bunch, but she is the best part of that film, 100%.
I was trying to find something that she was in that was a little more substantial than her usual. Because, I mean, listen, if she's part of the cast, it's instantly a plus, in my opinion. But I wanted something, that just had more of a central role to the story. And she's probably one of the greatest ensemble actors. I mean, almost everything she's done is a big ensemble. Even
right.
Beetlejuice, even Home Alone. Those are some big movies, a lot of people in them. And those are some of her biggest roles. So I think that's why they're always in the forefront. I personally, I love Waiting for Guffman. That's one of my all-time favorite movies, period. Forget about just something with her in it. But recently I threw on Heartburn, which was directed by Mike Nichols, written by Nora Ephron, Meryl Streep, Jack Nicholson, Richard Mesa, and she's got
Yeah.
maybe 15, maybe 20 minutes screen time, scattered throughout the 2 hour thing. And
Yeah.
she's doing this little country accent, and like she just pops up, and you instantly get happy. And she always gives a great performance, even if it's the smallest little role. She just adds something to it.
She was really lots of energy. That's what I remember. I will remember from her. For me, she's always be Kevin's mother
Uh-huh.
from Home Alone. But the funny thing, because I saw Home Alone, I saw Beetlejuice, the two films, and the funny thing about that is I didn't really catch her name before the TV show. I mean, the series Schitt's Creek. I don't know if you watched that.
Oh yeah.
And from there, I realized, oh my God, it was Kevin's mom. It was the mother in Beetlejuice also. And every time she was a mother, I always saw films where she was the mother. So for me, she has a maternal face, and she's always, yeah, lots of energy, theatrical in a way, but dramatical also. She can really switch from comedy to drama in a second.
Flawlessly.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it's always subtle, it's not just she goes from there like a big break. It's really subtle in quite all of her characters. I mean, those who I watched, they have like a double layer, you
Mhm.
see the frivolous woman, and then you understand that she's more than that. And yeah, so I don't know if it's because she's like that if she was like that in real life, or if she had a way to choose her role accordingly. I don't know, but yeah, I will remember that from her. The frivolous who has a double layer.
She can play someone that is so quirky and weird, like Mora in Schitt's Creek, or some of the characters that she plays in the Christopher Guest movies. But I think, like you said, Anne, the hallmark for her, isn't something like, for example, Home Alone. That's a farce. And the last act of that movie is really, physical comedy, slapstick type of stuff. But she can go from doing the fainting stuff and the Kevins and the falling downs to having those poignant moments at the end with the kid.
Clearly.
Even the stuff with John Candy in the rental truck. You have those weird, funny scenes, and then she could just bring it seamlessly down into "This is my kid," and you totally buy it. And you see a warmth from her in those movies. That that's in some of her other characters you don't see. Even though I'm not saying that her characters are cold, but there's such an honest warmth in those movies, those Home Alone movies. I think that was that's why they pop into people's heads. Even though she's got such a great body of work, but it's that we grew up with that, and so she's kind of like our mom in a way. And it's that maternal thing that's, I think, sticks with a lot of us, especially in this age range. For us. Um, that's why I think it hurts so much. When like Pete said, it's out of no place. It wasn't like had been sick for a while. We've been hearing stuff. It's just no, out of no place. She just kind of up and left us.
It's interesting too, you said like I don't know what she's like in real life, and like of course, now that she's passed, there's all these interviews flooding the feed. And I mean, of course, as a fan, I've seen them over the years, but yeah, she's really like she's not like any of her characters. That's the really interesting and cool thing as well. She started out on Second City, and it's a comedy troupe, kind of like Saturday Night Live. And in Canada, there was a show SCTV, Second City TV, and that's where Rick Moranis came from, Eugene Levy, like all of her peers and contemporaries, John Candy, and she was a part of that group and a part of that troupe. So she was like creating characters as second nature, but she's not those people. They are characters, and I think having those defined boundaries as a performer also allowed her to explore and diversify. Like some people are just one thing, and they stay in that lane. And because she was constantly drifting across the field in various capacities, it allowed her to explore these different things. I was flipping through As I mentioned last month on my free preview of Apple TV, I was watching The Studio, and I had no idea she was in that. All of a sudden, Seth Rogen goes to his predecessor's house, and it's Catherine O'Hara. And it's like, oh, this show just like went up a notch and a half. Like, I don't have anything against Seth Rogen, but he's not a selling point. Catherine O'Hara in the package. I'm fucking buying a ticket, you know what I mean? And she was great because she was displaying all of her strengths. And again, that's like a brand new show. Like they just started filming the second season. So for this news to hit, it was just like, what?
Yeah.
I just saw her in like the most recent possible thing, It's just like so I was a little taken aback. I'm not gonna lie.
And I had the same experience with the film Pain Hustlers. I don't know if you heard about this film.
No.
She's Emily Blunt's mother. And that's the same. She has a very small role. Maybe you see her at 4 times in the film, but she's so important actually. And the chemistry between her and Emily Blunt is really impressive. So if you have the opportunity to watch this film, it came out in 2023. And that's the same. It's magical, the thing she does in this film.
It's really interesting. Among the clips that I've seen, somebody had asked her, like, what role would you most like to be remembered for? And she looked at them and she kind of cocked her head and she was like, just being a mother, and she was referring to herself being a mother to her own children. But, Steve said, she's kind of like part of that, like, mythical mother of our generation just through the roles that she's portrayed and the connections that she's made.
Yeah, she might not have the biggest parts in these films, but they're not the same without her.
No,
none of them. And we just talked. It was so weird because we had just talked. I felt we just talked about Nightmare Before Christmas not too long ago, and then to get this news, it sucked. It was a really sucky feeling because it's like what a good person. The sucky thing is when you lose people like this, it's not just that you lose them as a performer. You lose those types of people, good people, and those good people are hard to replace. Both on and off the screen. It's sad.
So at the beginning, I had mentioned how March 4th was kind of a significant day, and for me, it previously was because it was the day John Candy passed away. But I think moving forward, I'm just going to always remember it as her birthday.